is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Tonight in the headlines, in the Philippines, leaders of indigenous communities in Mindanao plan to discuss the violent raid conducted by the PNP staff on CIDG in their communities. It follows their attempt to arrest Pastor Apollo Sikibaloy in Tamayo, Davao City and Kitbog, Sarangani Province. An IP leader in Mindanao questions President Bongbong Marcos on sincerity regarding indigenous rights and the country's respect for the law. Meanwhile, in the wake of this controversial raid, a senator is pushing for an investigation into the police operations at the religious compound of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ in Davao City. He also warned that such violent operations not only harm those directly affected, but also damage the international image of the Philippines. Also tonight, another political twist awaits in the country as former President Rodrigo Duterte, Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte, and 1st District Representatives Paolo Duterte will run for senator in the upcoming midterm polls. Vice President Sara Duterte confirmed this on Tuesday and mentioned that Mayor Baste will also run for president in 2028 elections. For our top stories around the globe, Julian Assange is flying back to Australia after a 12 years legal battle. The WikiLeaks founder was released from a British prison and is running to home country, Australia, on Monday, following his 12-year battle against the extradition to the United States, which ended in a plea deal. And in South Korea, a powerful explosion of battle cells ignited a factory fire, resulting in the death of more than 20 people and injuring 8 others. I'm Deivid Lira. Newsline World starts now. First in the news, 2 weeks ago, following the violent raid by armed PNP staff of June 10, 2024 in the religious compound of Kingdom of Jesus Christ, some indigenous peoples of Kitbog, Malugan, Sarangani Province shared their harassment ordeal at the hands of police who forcibly removed them from their homes. Hannah Jen Sancho has the story.
The peaceful life of the Bilaan tribe in Kitbog, Malungun, Sarangani was violently disrupted when armed PNP staff suddenly entered their community, forcibly displacing them from their homes. Their peace was shattered, replaced by intense fear. The armed authorities did not even consider the elderly and those living in their homes. Others were exhausted from a day's work in the mountains.
Sa akong pananaw sa ilaha kanang murag makalagot ko sa ilaha ba. Nga murag dili tama sa kuan sa ilang ginahimo. Dapat kung musaka sila pahibalo o kanang buntag ba kanang adlaw nga dili gabi gyud.
The authorities showed utter disregard and completely heartless as they ignored the pleas of senior citizens to refrain from forcibly evicting them from their homes because of their health concerns.
Pagawas, kinaing pusilo, gawas ka na, gawas. Sakit mong ulo ko sa... sige, gawas ka. Sakit ulo, nako. Naman ito. Hadlok nako. Sige. Gawas ka, gawas. Oo. Sige ang fusil, sige. Sige ka na, gawas. Kung kakulba-kulbaan yun, kay siyempre, karon pa may makakita nga anak mi. Sa ilaha nga pag kuan sa ako, nangisugman ko kay gikalinturahan ko tung time. Kay namugos man sila, sige, ayo, gawas mo ma'am. Gawas mo ma'am, nag-ingon ko sa sulod sa balay. Unsa man ni ay, sige gawas mo diha. Pag abri na ako sa portahan, gaana ang duha sa tumong sa kuha nga pusil. Ang duha, kay upat man sila, ang duha nilahos man sila sa ilang nga balay. Ang duha, mauto nga nagdalag flashlight. Nag-ingon sila nga, pila mo sulod sa balay, ingon ako, duha lang mi, akong pagumangkon nga lalaki. Sige, pukawa kay gawas mo.
Sabi ng pulis na 24. Sabi na sa pulis, kinasama ko yung baril niya. Sabi niya sa akin, dyan ka lang sir, huwag kang, dyan ka lang. Tawagan mo lang yung mga kapatid mo at yung mama mo. Tapos yung isa, sabi ng isang pulis, ingat kasi may tao sa loob. Yung mama ko saka yung kasi natakot po sila eh.
Ang ilahang gikuan niya, wala gud sila, dili gud maayo ilang gihimo kay nang hadlok ang mga tao. Ultimo bisag sa ako ni kuan gud kog trauma. Kay dito sa balay gipagawas nila ang mga bata, gipugos mi nila gawas. Yung mga bata nagsigig hila kay nangita sa kuha.
Pagkanaog mi inasudlan ang among mga balay kay nag-ingon sila nga basig na may tago pod diri, pero nag-ingon pod mi diri wala may tago diri, wala may compromise.
Ingon ako nga, unsa inyo hang tuyo diri sir, inyo nga na ni pangita. Unsa pangita ninyo diri nga wala may tao, lain tao diri nagpuyo. Ingon niya nga, sige lang kayo, mauna yung order gikan sa taas nga kada balay, kining dapit diri, sudlon jud namo ni nga pati sa sulod sa balay, amo ang sudlan. Ha, dili baya unta nga pwede nga mosulod mo sa balay niya gabi ipagyod.
The community of the Blaan tribe was disturbed by PNP staff officers in full battle gear as they searched for Pastor Apollo Sikibloy because his church is near the community. The police showed no documents as proof that they could enter the homes of the Blaan. They have no other information about the search. The real target of the authorities was the KOJC religious compound in Kitbog. They searched every corner of it. Cecilia, not her real name, recalled the events of June 10 when the authorities forcibly entered the compound.
Gabot nila diri sa compound, wali nag-ikot sila tanan, pati sa mga room tanan gipang-abrehan nila. Gipaabre gyud nila sa mua, pati tong dito sa SQCM, ilag yung gipaabre sa mua tanang area. Pati CR gani ilang gisipa. Gisipa nila ang CR kay nawala ang susi. So ilag yung tong gipugos og abre. Sila mismo nagsipa sa CR kay para lang gyud abrehan ang CR. Giikot nila ang KLC, pati ang CR, ila pong giikot. Basta walay kuan diri nga wala nila giabrihan. Wala gid sila nakitaan.
The indigenous people cannot understand why they have to suffer this way, given that they know Pastor Apollo as a good person. The Blaans in Kitbog played an important role in the spiritual journey of Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, and this is where his training began before the kingdom of Jesus Christ grew. It was in the 70s when Pastor Apollo first came to Kitbog, and the indigenous people regarded him as a true brother. Some Blaan shared how they lived before they had encountered Pastor Apollo in their place.
Ang kinabuhi namo diri sa unas kining dapit sa Kitbog lisod ban gud ni siya. Nga taas kayo mga istorya ba kung atong ginahisgutan nga taas kayo mga istorya nga tungod sa kalisod. Una-una kanang dalan o kanang mga panginabuhi namo diri na may mga panginabuhi pero lisod na magpagawas sa malungon kay simple ang dalan namo lisod kaayo kabayo lang gikan diri malukto malungon. Upat ka oras ang baklay namo diri magkabayo abot sa malungon.
So the Blaan tribe is very grateful when Pastor Apollo returns to their community.
Maayo na inyo hang lugar karon kay nana si pastor. Tinuod jud maayo kay sa unang panahon lisod kaayo kanang mga pine tree, mga bulak wala man ni dire nya karon nga nana si pastor maayo namang kuan pagpuyo dire.
On May 29, 2023, the Blaan tribe of Kitbog confirmed and recognized Pastor Apollo as Datu Tudlabun, which means access to heaven or bridge to heaven.
Maayo kaayo tung naa na si pastor diri. Sa una, kining Kitbog, gubot kaayo. Kaning isa ka tuig tag, murag tag 3 ka beses nga na makwit mi. Kay giagianan man ni sa mga bandido, mga kawatan, mga magpinatyanay nga mga tao. Unya karon pag-abot na ni pastor diri, ang mga bandido na bag-o sila sa ilang kaugalingon.
Unsay gihimo ni pastor diri sa mua, grabe ang yang tabang diri sa mua, mga lumulupyo diri. Sa unang panahon way dalan, way suga, way tubig. Kung naami produkto, pasano na mo padulog malungon, naami isda, paliton, inigabot dubok na. Kay tungod sa kalayo, way dalan. Si pastor naghatag sa mga dalan, naisakyan na mo diha, anytime nga naay magsakit sa mga community, andam ang among area nga mo, andam ang among sakyanan nga mo hatod dito sa baba, mo hatod sa ospital. So dili maabtan nga mamatay ang pasyente sa dalan. Kay nanay dalan, si pastor nagtabang og sakyanan. Niya ang mga tao dito sa palibot, mga bandido sa una, karon nagbag-o gyud sila.
Roads, electricity, water. These are just few of the basic needs that the government should prioritize for our indigenous brothers and sisters in the Blaan community in Kitbug. However, it was Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy who took the lead in providing these because of his love for others without exception.
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SM9 News.
Tribal leaders in Mindanao plan to discuss the violent raid conducted by the PNP staff and CIDG in their community. This follows the warrant of arrest served on Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy in Tamayo, Davao City, and Kitbug, Sarangani Province. An IP leader in Mindanao is questioning President Bongbong Marcos' sincerity in respecting indigenous rights and whether the law still holds in the country. Details from Jake Calabroso.
Filipinos continue to express anger over human rights violations under the Marcos administration. Recently, the indigenous sector suffered police brutality during an attempt to arrest Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy and others on June 10, 2024. According to Dato' Lipatuan Joel Unad, chairman of the Mindanao Indigenous Peoples Council of Elders, the Philippine National Police Special Action Force and Criminal Investigation and Detection Group raid on their communities in Sitio Kitbog, Malungon, Sarangani, and Glory Mountain in Tamayong, Davao City raises significant questions.
Malaking tanong, kung yung ginagawa ng ating kapulisan o sa ating gobyerno sa treatment doon sa mga tribo, dahil sa paghanap kay Pastor Kibuloy, na yun ang attitude nila, ang tanong nila, ano yan? Nasa batas ba yung ganong approach nila? May mandate ba yun na ganon talaga ang gawin ng mga kapulisan natin? Na kahit yung mga tribo na walang alam-alam?
The police lacked a search warrant and some of the affected areas were outside the religious compound of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. A member of the Blaan tribe died from fear after witnessing police violence and being forcibly evicted from their homes. KOJC missionaries, members of the Bagobo Klata tribe in Glory Mountain, were dragged, kicked, and handcuffed during the raid. Indigenous community leaders are deeply concerned about these actions, which felt akin to terrorist attacks.
Parang hindi na matanggap na sinasabi na, sabi na ang may approach lang na gano'n, ang teroristang NPA. Bakit ngayon yun ang maramdaman ng tribo?
Dato' Unad posed a direct question to President Bongbong Marcos Jr. about the government's treatment of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy and their sector.
Direct question kay PBBM. Ito ba talaga ang attitude ni PBBM to approach sa tribo na andyon sa teritoryo na peaceful na teritoryo? So yun bang kalat-karin ang mga tao, takot-takutin ang mga tao? Isa bang batas yan? In behalf sa 18 major tribes sa the whole Mindanao, talagang that is part of discrimination yung ginagawa talaga sa officer ng PNP. Kung ito with mandate order ni PBBA, i-consider namin na si Presidente Marcos, malaki siyang parte nito. Saan na ang batas?
Dato' Unad emphasized Pastor Apollo's importance to the indigenous peoples, granting him a sacred name.
Sa lahat, alam man ninyo, si Pastor Kibuloy, minamahal natin, adopted name yung tatawag Dato' Pamulingan, pinaka-sensitive yan at saka pinakasagrado.
Pastor Apollo is honored and recognized by the Obu Manuvo tribe as Dato' Pamulingan and by the Blaan tribe as Dato' Tudlabun, meaning access to heaven as a sign of respect and acceptance into their community. Meanwhile, Datu Unad mentioned the IP leaders across Mindanao are planning to meet and discuss about the Marcos administration's violations of their rights, especially those who were victims of June 10th incident. They will also discuss the next steps to hold authorities accountable for their actions. For God of my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNA News.
Senator Robin Hood Padilla will continue to push for an investigation into the PNP operations at the religious compound of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ in Davao City. MJ Madahar reports.
Para sa akin naman pati ba naman mga bata, mga nadamay na, pati
Senator Robin Padilla sighed deeply as he recalled the fate of the members and workers of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ when the PNP, CIDG, and Special Action Forces raided the religious compounds in Davao City and Sarangani Province. The violent raids conducted by the Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation Group and Special Action Forces took place in June 10, 2024, a date etched in the memories of KOJC members. To this day, many who witnessed the PNP operation still experience severe trauma and anxiety, especially children who are now afraid to be left at home, worried that the police might raid again. Senator Padilla warned that such violent operations not only harm those directly affected, but also damage the international image of the Philippines.
sinabi ko na hindi magiging maganda para sa mata ng mga Pilipino at ng mga dayuhan na makita na meron tayong ganitong klaseng enforcement sa loob ng simbahan.
As a Muslim public servant, Senator Padilla expresses deep pain over the desecration of places of worship because, similar to Islamic culture, places of prayer are sacred and should be respected.
Medyo para sa akin masakit sa mata yun. Hindi yun dapat nangyayari. Lalo na at nakita natin na mga naka-combat.
Senator Padilla is eager to bring the investigation of the PNP operations at the KOJC religious compounds in Davao City to the Senate. He tasked Senator Ronald De La Rosa's Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs to probe the matter in aid of legislation.
Pag-usapan lang. Wala naman akong gustong awayin . Ako lang gusto ko pag-usapan natin. Ba't nangyari to?
KOJC lawyers have questioned whether the PNP would conduct such violent operations at other churches, such as Catholic and Muslim places of worship.
Sana sa usapin na to, ihiwalay natin ang simbahan. Respetuhin natin yung simbahan. Kung ang problema natin, kung kumbaga, ang issue ng gobyerno ay si Pastor Apollo. Si Pastor Apollo, tibuloy ang issue natin. Hindi yung buong kingdom. Yun ang, yun ako na nabigla.
These challenging times for the nation, Senator Padilla urged the administration to focus on addressing bigger issues. He called on the public to support the government instead of actions that could divide Filipinos.
Parang hindi ito yung panahon. Meron tayong pinagdadaanan sa external problem natin. Dapat sa internal wala tayong ganito. Wala tayong ganito, mga kababayan. Dapat sa mga kababayan natin, dapat okay tayo. Doon tayo maging unang okay sa kababayan natin.
For Ganobel of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
Up next, Iran and Bahrain signal of readiness to restore diplomatic ties after nearly 8 years of political rift. And an international relations scholar asserts to inconsistent and conflicting statements from the Philippine government officials regarding recent tensions at the Ayungin Show are blamed on the lack of clear strategy and foreign policy guidance from the country's commander-in-chief. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Abangan ng Banateros tuwing Lunes hanggang Huwebes, live dito lang sa SMNI.
Yan ang Banateros, walang inuurungan. Pag tama palakpakan, pag mali ay babanatan. Yan ang Banateros.
tatanungin, kahit saang aspeto, gusto ko garantisado. Metikuloso akong tao, kaya gusto ko lahat maayos at sigurado. Lahat quality, yung hindi ako makukompromiso, pero sulit ang presyo. Ganyan ang clean fuel, kaya dito, panatag ang loob ko.
Magandang umaga po, sir. Full tank po.
Full tank. Kung gusto mo ng dekalidad na gasolina pero sulit ang halaga, mag-clean fuel ka.
Magandang umaga Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Maayong buntag mga kapartner. Magandang araw sa buong mundo.
Magandang araw Pilipinas. Ito ang Pulso ng Bayan.
Hihimayin ang mga pangunahing issue sa ating bayan. Susuriin ang mga kinakailangang malaman ng taong bayan. Aalamin ang pulso ng bawat Pilipino sa mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. Pulso ng Bayan, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes. Kasama ang spokes ng Bayan, Attorney Harry Roque, Admar Vilando at Jade Calabroso. Dito lang sa SMNI.
Anything that tries your faith and puts you on the spot of deciding whether to continue or to stop is a fire. Whether it is persecution, whether it is loved ones, family, anything that will try your faith, whether to continue or to stop or to overcome or draw back, it is called fire. Now, salvation is based upon our building up on the foundation. Whether silver, gold, stubble, precious stones, that means if it is gold, then it's genuine. It can go through the fire, but it will stay. When your confession of commitment and dedication is not true, when the fire goes through you, you will be burned. That's why I love my ministry. Because all of those that are able to overcome are certified 100% pure gold. Pure gold. Hypocrites have no place in the kingdom nation. Pretenders have no place in the kingdom nation. Plastics don't have place in the kingdom nation. Why? Because before we can be ushered into the new world, we should be tried by fire.
Back in the news, a former government official raises questions about the conflicting statements of the Executive Secretary and the Defense Secretary regarding the latest incident at the Ayungin Shoal involving Chinese Coast Guard and Philippine Navy. One of them is whether the President's cabinet discussed the issue before releasing their statement. Carla Abellana has the news.
Former presidential spokesperson Attorney Harry Roque has raised questions over the conflicting statements provided by top officials following the tense encounter at Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. Reports indicate that during a routine rotation and resupply mission on June 17, the Philippine Navy's BRP Sierra Madre faced alleged harassment from Chinese forces. Earlier, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin characterized China's action as a misunderstanding or accident.
No. Well, you know, this was probably a misunderstanding or an accident. We are not yet ready to classify this as an armed attack.
However, Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro offered a different statement, saying that the incident was not a misunderstanding or accident, but a deliberate act to obstruct the Philippines from completing its mission.
We see the latest incident in Ayungin not as a misunderstanding or an accident. It is a deliberate act of the Chinese officialdom to prevent us from completing our mission.
Meanwhile, Attorney Harry Roque pointed out the contradicting statements on such a critical issue.
Ako po'y nagtataka kung bakit ang dalawang kalihim, lalong-lalo na ang Executive Secretary at saka ang Department of National Defense ay iba ang mensahe sa taong bayan. Ano ba talaga kuya? Hindi ko maintindihan. Iisang gabinete, lahat sila alter ego ng presidente, salungat ang mga sinasabi.
Roque also expressed concern over the possible escalation of tensions in the disputed waters, urging President Bongbong Marcos Jr. to clarify his administration's stance on the issue.
Ano ba talaga ang polisiya? Nakakahelo. Kung mga Pilipino nahehelo, lalo na siguro yung mga Chino nahehelo, hindi na nila alam kung sinong paniniwalaan nila. No? Kung gusto na ba natin talagang ma-de-escalate ang tension. Ang problema kasi, bakit hindi nagsalita ang presidente kung ano talaga ang polisiya? Kung ano talaga ang tingin niya sa nangyari sa Ayungin? After all, lahat ng gabinete, alter ego lang yan. Meron pa rin presidente na dapat nagsasalita at nagsasabi kung anong posisyon ng bansa. So nasa ng presidente kapag ganito nang nangyayari?
If Attorney Roque were to be asked, he would favor Bersamin's statement more because he believes that there is still a chance to discuss the tension through diplomatic means regarding the West Philippine Sea. For God and my beloved Philippines, Carla Abellana, SMNI News.
Former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo strongly disagrees with the court's decision to acquit a former Senator Leila De Lima of her drug case. For De Lima, spending almost 7 years in prison was an absolute injustice. Meanwhile, Attorney Panelo says that she may have escaped the law of the land, but she cannot escape the law of karma. This story from Sara Santos.
Ako po ay salungat sa desisyon ng korte.
Former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo is against the acquittal of former Senator Leila De Lima of her third and final drug case. The decision of the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court on Monday, June 24, 2024, granted the camp of De Lima's demur to evidence request. A demur to evidence is a petition which requests the court to dismiss a case for insufficient evidence. The court may say that there is insufficient evidence in the said case against the former senator, but for Attorney Panelo, what matters is the fact that there is evidence against the accused De Lima. Meanwhile, Panelo stressed that the appreciation of the court on the weight of the recantation of the witnesses favorable to the accused is contrary to the jurisprudence and Supreme Court's ruling on the unreliability and inadmissibility of recantation. It is not unknown to the public that De Lima has attacked the character of former President Rodrigo Duterte several times, but not once did Duterte sue her. Meanwhile, Panelo highlighted the processes De Lima went through as an accused.
Number one, hindi naman nung si Presidente Duterte na ang nag-aaya ng kaso sa kanya. Number two, siya po ay napasa ilalim ng tinatawag na preliminary investigation. So, ang sabi ng mga panel of prosecutors, merong probable cause. Madalit sabi, dalawa pong processes ang dinaanan ng akusado. Kaya hindi niya maaaring sabihin na nagkaroon ng inostisya. Si Presidente Duterte hindi nakialam. Hindi naman siya pumasok sa proseso.
For De Lima, her almost 7 years behind bars was an injustice. But for Attorney Panelo, this was the right payment for the crimes committed by the former lawmaker.
Kasi si akusado, ang dating senadora, ang sabi niya, malaki daw na injustisya ang nangyari sa kanya. Sabi ko naman sa aking statement, wala pong injustisya sapagkat kung totoo man na ikaw ngayon walang kasalanan dito sa demanda sa illegal na droga, yung 7 taon mong pagkakulong, yun ang bayad mo sa krimen na ginawa mo laban sa dating Presidente Arroyo nung ikaw ay lumabas bag sa order ng Korte Suprema na wag mong pigilan ang dating Presidente Arroyo na lumipad papunta sa ibang bansa upang magpagamot sapagkat may sakit. Hininto niya, inaresto niya hanggang sa makulong at naabsuelto. Siya, iyan po ang naging kasalanan niya na hindi siya naidemanda dyan. Kaya sabi ko, yung 7 taon na yun ay ang bayad mo. Yun po ang tinatawag na batas ng karma. The law of karma has finally caught up with her. She may have escaped from the law of the land, but the law of karma hindi niya matatakasan.
In the end, the former chief presidential legal counsel gave an advice to the former senator publicly, and that is to move on.
Mag-move on ka na and learn from the lessons of the past. Matuto ka sa mga nangyari sa iyo nung mga nakaraang taon. Because if you do not learn from those lessons, they are bound to happen again.
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Sara Santos, SMNI News.
Iran and Bahrain showed they're both ready to restore diplomatic ties after nearly 8 years of political rift. Melchizedek Cadiz reports.
Assalamualaikum. Iran is ready to put the past behind and start anew in its relations with Bahrain after an incident in 2016 caused both nations to sever ties. Iran's acting Foreign Minister Ali Khani discussed the matter with Bahrain's Foreign Minister Abdulatif Al-Zayani on the sidelines of the Asian Cooperation Dialogue in Tehran. Both sides agreed to start talks on the requirements for resuming diplomatic relations. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia cut ties with Iran in 2016 following the attacks on the Saudi embassy in Tehran caused by the execution of an opposition Shiite cleric. Bahrain has also accused Iran in the past for initiating unrest in the Gulf nation. Bahrain softened its stance toward Iran after Saudi Arabia restored diplomatic ties with the Islamic Republic in March 2023 with China's help. Bahrain also asked Russia earlier this month to send Iran a message it is ready to settle differences. Reporting from Kuwait, I am Melchizedek Cadiz, your global citizen correspondent for God and for our beloved country, the Philippines.
Members of Hamas, including its high-ranking officials, are expected to visit Iraq in the coming days or weeks amid pressure from Qatar and the United States to secure a deal for a ceasefire in Gaza. Gratu Omori with the details.
Iraq will take the responsibility of protecting Hamas leaders, officers, and personnel as long as they are staying in the capital city of Baghdad for ceasefire talks. Hamas leaders will temporarily leave Qatar for Iraq to discuss the crucial truce in Gaza. Plans for a proposed meeting concerning the Gaza ceasefire were discussed by Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh, together with the representatives from Iran and Iraq last month. Iraq has welcomed the idea of Hamas maintaining a high-profile presence in the country. Talks on securing a deal between Israel and Hamas to agree on a ceasefire have been met with obstacles. Negotiations led to a deadlock in recent months as both sides made their respective demands. Death toll in war-torn Gaza has exceeded 37,000 since fighting started in October, according to the Hamas-run Health Ministry. Reporting from Dubai, I'm Gratero Omori, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News Channel.
When we come back, former President Rodrigo Duterte, Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte, and 1st District Representative Paolo Duterte will run for senator in the upcoming midterm polls. Vice President Sara Duterte confirmed this on Tuesday and mentioned that Mayor Baste will also run for president in the 2028 elections. And a powerful explosion on battery cells ignited a factory fire in South Korea, killing more than 20 people and injuring 8 others. Stay tuned for more news.
Nag-devotional Nick, biglang narinig namin may commotion sa labas ng compound.
May nag-sampa na dyan na mga full battlefield. Ano kung initial reaction, hindi po pwede yan. Because that is illegal.
Igibain na nila ang aming gate march. Sa pilitan ito. puro pag-ibig para sa ating bansa. Huwag na yung gagawin kung ano man ang ilusot sa inyo. Alam nyo ang nangyari mula sa simula. Puro false accusations lahat. Puro sinungalingan lahat. Walang katotohanan. Kung nakikinig kayo at nanonood kayo kay Pastor, alam nyo kung ano ang pinapangaral ni Pastor. Puro pag-ibig ng ating dakilang amang pinangangaral ni Pastor. Puro pagtulog sa kapwa. Puro tagaunlad ng ating bansa.
Hindi kami tinuturuan ni Pastor na maging lumalaban ng matapang. Kung tinuturuan kami ni Pastor mabuti, katulad niya. Pero kanina, nalaman ko, bahala barilin ako. Sinabi ko ng military, barilin na ako. Gusto mo? Hindi ko ito ibibigay itong laki sa'yo.
Dapat sir, magpakilala muna. We have search warrant, okay. Ganun po sistema sir. Bigla-bigla na lang po sir. Marami pong nasaktan. But look, gaganti ba kayo? Wala po kaming ginanti sir. Wala kaming kalaban-laban. Okay lang po sa loob sir. Wala naman tinatago. Pag wala kang tinatago sir, malinis ang konsensya, pag-iisip po sir, kakabahan. Wala po kaming ginagawa. Kaya nga open na pinapasok eh. Kasi kung may tinatago pa kami, dito pa lang sir, dadana kang dugo. Pero wala po. Kita nyo? Because yan po ang turo ni Pastor po sa amin. Kaya wag po tayo magpag- kahit sino man po nagtuto sa atin. May sakto po tayong pag-iisip.
Pag-negotiate na, dito'y sakit kakuan nga. Magyoy, magkaiwan dyan ka nga. Or siya kita. Nga, na yung mga bata na to, wala ko kabalo. Etik ko ang sa mga bata na to. Nakakita sila ngayon na nahita mo. So, nag-upload na lang tanga. Wala epektuan sa mga bata na to.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte, Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte, and First District Representative Paolo Duterte will run for senator in the upcoming midterm polls. This was confirmed by Vice President Sara Duterte on Tuesday. She also mentioned that Mayor Baste will run for the president in 2028 elections. Jason Rubrico will give us more details.
Vice President Sara Duterte granted an interview to the media at the OVP Pride reception held at a hotel in Cagayan de Oro City. Here, she revealed the Duterte family's plans for the upcoming 2025 and 2028 elections and that 3 Dutertes will run for senator in the midterm elections.
Lahat sila raring na tumakbo eh. Si PRD senator, yung kuya ko, si Paulo Duterte, yung congressman ngayon, senator, si Sebastian Duterte. Tatlo ang Duterte next year.
Okay na yan.
Her mother, Elizabeth Zimmerman, said that Mayor Baste will run for president in 2028. But what are Vice President Duterte's plans?
Ingon sa ako ang mama mo, balik daw ko sa Davao, mayor.
When asked if she would run for Davao City Mayor in 2025 or 2028, this was her response.
Pag-uusapan namin.
There is no discussion about her resigning as the vice president of the country at the moment. But how is Vice President Duterte's relationship with President Bongbong Marcos after she resigned as the Secretary of the Department of Education and left the President's cabinet?
I would think, sa tingin ko, ay magkaibigan pa rin kami. Ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos.
Vice President Duterte has no idea who will replace her as DepEd Secretary, but she welcomes whoever will be appointed to the position. This was her response to the suggestion that the next DepEd Secretary should come from the education sector.
The position of secretary is a position of trust and confidence. Tsaka pangalawa, walang nakalagay na requirements para sa isang education secretary. In fact, dito sa Southeast Asia, kung makikita ninyo, hindi lahat ng mga education secretaries are from the education sector. Unang-una talaga, kapag secretary ka, kailangan talaga isa kang leader at isa kang manager.
Meanwhile, the Vice President was asked about her viral video regarding the scar on her neck.
Hindi naman na siguro kailangan i-interpret yun, very straightforward yun. Tinanong ako kung ano yung sugat na nasa leeg ko at sinabi ko na sinubukan nila ako i-urgor pero hindi sila nagtagumpay. Sino ba yun? Silang lahat.
Vice President Duterte had no comment on House Speaker Martin Romualdez's recent statement expressing that he misses her. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, Azimunaw News.
The Commission on Elections has finalized contract with the service providers for the implementation of overseas internet voting come midterm elections, saying that a platform has end-to-end encryption to make the votes private and secure. Margaret Gonzalez has the story.
For the first time ever, OFWs will cast their votes online, requiring only an internet connection via their phone, iPad, tablet, or computer for registration and voting access. This after COMELEC sealed a $100 million contract with SMS Global Technologies and its partner Sequentech Incorporated for online voting on Tuesday morning. Their original passport will serve as their valid ID during the voting process. As a security measure, they must capture their identification document and provide a video selfie. Contractors have reassured the public about vote security, citing features like end-to-end encryption implemented across online platforms.
Is a system that is end-to-end verifiable, which means that the votes are encrypted, they are private, and the process from the beginning when you cast the ballot to the end where you have the results is verifiable from the beginning to the end, and this means that you can check in this case that the cast ballot is correct at the same time that the privacy of the voter and the privacy of the ballot is maintained.
The cryptography being used is done by leading cryptographers in the world, which is part of the Sequent advisors. And we are confident that not only is it end-to-end verifiable, it is end-to-end encrypted.
COMELEC Chairman Attorney George Garcia said that the Commission will conduct massive voter education for online voting, hoping that through this method, voter turnout will increase in the 2025 midterm election abroad. Chairman Garcia emphasized that many Filipinos abroad are hesitant to vote online due to their overseas status. He also acknowledged concerns, particularly among undocumented or foreign citizens residing abroad, assuring them of protection measures by the Commission.
Ang takot talaga nila, undocumented kami. At malamang-lamang, yung pong issue ng undocumented Filipinos ay hindi lang doon sa pinuntahang bansa. Napakadaming bansa yan. Pumunta po tayo sa Singapore, sa Hong Kong, kahit po sa Arab countries. Yan po ang laging problema, undocumented. So yung mga Pilipinos natatakot na pag nag-renew ng passport, take note, ang ginagamit po nila sa pag-renew o sa pagpaparehistro sa atin ay passport nila. And therefore, kung yung passport ay expired, hindi maparenew yung passport, dahil natatakot sila pag nagparenew, baka ma-report na sila ay undocumented. And well, in all fairness sa ating embahada, sa ating DFA, when it comes to registration, wala naman silang issue sa passport. In fact, pero nagsabi sa atin, they are renewing the passport kahit pa expired. Kahit pa maaaring alam nila na ito'y maaaring undocumented alien. Ang importante na ma-renew yung passport para makapagparehistro. So yun ang sigurong kinakailangan mapaliwanag.
Chairman Garcia pointed out that currently, OFWs must travel long distances to embassies to cast their votes. He also stressed the need to prioritize seafarers in implementing online voting and underscored the importance of OFW votes in a successful election.
Sabi nila, baliwala rin naman ang boses ko. Pero gusto po namin sabihin sa kanila, ang boses nyo ay napakahalaga sa ating halalan. Maaari 1 milyon lang po kayo, pero 1 milyon can elect the number 12 senator. Yung 1 milyon, 2 na kaagad na party list po yun, kung tutuusin. And therefore, it may mean a lot to candidates for the Senate, candidates for the party list, and later on, candidates for President and Vice President.
Meanwhile, Garcia clarified that 17 posts abroad do not allow internet voting due to government restrictions. Therefore, new voting machines will be brought to consulates and embassies for Filipino voters to cast their ballots there. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
The Metropolitan Water Workers and Sewerage System Regulatory Office has fined water concessionaires of Maynilad millions of pesos for poor water quality in different barangays in Caloocan City. Sheena Torno has the news.
The family of Joy Estuesta has doubts about the potable water supplied by Maynilad Water Services Incorporated. Despite the expense, they purchase mineral water for drinking, especially since they have many children at home. They fear that the tap water from Maynilad might not be clean.
Lalo sa amin, marami kaming bata dito, lalo may sanggol, tsaka especially may matanda din. Siyempre, mahina na yung doon resistensya. Ganun po.
Baka mainom nila
Opo. Baka mainom po yung tubig mula sa gripo.
Residents in several barangays in Caloocan City were unaware that the water from Maynilad was contaminated with total coliform in December of last year. This bacteria, commonly found in the environment, such as in soil, plants, human and animal waste, can cause illnesses like diarrhea and vomiting. But how did coliform bacteria end up contaminating the water supplied by Maynilad to residents in Caloocan City?
Nagkaroon po ng contamination sa distribution system natin, no? And that is normally because of leaks in the system or during water interruption, kung saan po maaring pumasok ang contaminants.
Maynilad clarified that no customer would become ill from drinking water contaminated with total coliform.
Sa igsi po ng panahon na nagkaroon ng non-compliance sa water quality, hindi po. Kasi kailangan po ng malaking volume ng water at prolonged exposure sa ganun pong klaseng non-compliance para po masabi na may impact siya sa health po ng isang individual. Ligtas pong inumin ang tubig ng Maynilad.
Nevertheless, the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System Regulatory Office admitted that it took time to issue the fine as several random tests were conducted to determine the cause. However, the MWSS Regulatory Office maintains that Maynilad must be fined for failing to provide proper service to its customers. The fine amounts to over 2 million pesos, calculated based on the agency's implementing rules and regulations and revised concessionaire agreement. As a result, affected customers will receive over 530 pesos as a rebate on their water bills.
The essence of our decision is that we are monitoring Manila Water and Maynilad's performance, that we do random sampling, and we are here to protect the interests of the consumers.
The chief regulator explained why Maynilad was fined just over 2 million pesos.
The penalty is determined on the length of time plus the number of services affected, and of course the effect to the consumers.
Currently, the MWSS-RO is conducting further investigations into both concessionaires. It did not specify if these investigations are related to water quality supplied to their customers. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMNI News.
The inconsistent and conflicting statement from the government officials regarding the recent tension at the Ayungin Shoal are attributed to the lack of the clear plan and foreign policy from the Commander-in-Chief of the Philippines, as stated by an international scholar. Here's the report by Almar Fosuelo.
Tension flared again on June 17, 2024 in the disputed waters, particularly at Ayungin Shoal, following a humanitarian rotation and resupply operation by the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP to the rusting ship BRP Sierra Madre. As a result, Filipino soldiers were reportedly subjected to inhumane treatment by the Chinese Coast Guard, with the Philippine Navy personnel losing a finger. After the incident, the Chinese Coast Guard was the first to issue a statement saying that Filipinos violated the International Maritime Collision Avoidance Rules. For the AFP, the actions of China were aggressive and barbaric. The AFP further stated that China is the primary cause of tension in the area. A few days after the incident, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin said it was just a misunderstanding between China and the Philippines. However, Defense Secretary Gilberto Chudoro later contradicted this, stating it was not a misunderstanding and that China's actions deliberately prevented the Philippine mission. This has left some Filipinos confused about the Philippines' stance on the matter. In an interview with SM9 Radio, international relations scholar Sas Roganto Sasot attributed the ongoing conflict in the South China Sea to the lack of a clear blueprint from the Philippine president.
So ngayon, it seems that the architect of the foreign policy of the Philippines doesn't have a clear blueprint. Alam niyo naman, no? If you have a clear blueprint, if you are an architect, if you are a good architect, then the engineer would be able to build a good bridge, a good building, a good structure, and follow that blueprint.
She added that the lack of a clear plan from the president confuses the operations of those below him.
So ngayon, nakikita natin na it seems that at the operations level, the engineers of the foreign policy is not following the blueprint dahil iba-iba sila. So parang sa mga religious, no, parang ngayon silang nasa Tower of Babel. Hindi na sila magkaintindihan. Tayo rin hindi natin sila maintindihan. Ano ba?
Yes.
Ano ba ang gusto niyo talaga? Gusto niyo ba ng diplomasya? Do you want to classify this an armed attack? Is this an accident, an aggression, an armed attack? Kasi iba-iba na yung sinasabi ninyo eh.
Sasot also questioned the media for giving airtime to a retired American Army officer whose statements seem to push for conflict.
Ano ba ang layunin ng US military? Ang US military po ba ay platform of diplomacy? Hindi, di ba? Ang US military ay platform of war. Hindi ba? So ngayon, ang US military, they would like to escalate the situation because that's their intention. Mawawala ang kanilang purpose. Kaya hindi na rin makakaila kung bakit ganito ang linya ni ex-US Air Force Officer Ray Powell na sinabi niyang be careful in its efforts to de-escalate.
Another point of confusion that puzzled Sasot was the inclusion of an underwater specialist in the resupply mission, considering the stated purpose was simply to deliver supplies.
Well, marami din tayo hindi naiintindihan sa nangyaring resupply mission, no? At mas magandang mahimay ito. Halimbawa, Admar and Pilita, no, ngayon ko lang nalaman ng may mga kasama pala doon na underwater operations specialist. Underwater operations specialist. Akala ba namin resupply? Bakit may underwater operations specialist? Ano ba ginagawa ng Navy na underwater operations specialist?
It can be recalled that Senator Cynthia Villar previously said that to avoid conflict in the West Philippine Sea, only the Coast Guard should go there and not the military. Meanwhile, Sasot couldn't help but compare the management of the previous resupply missions.
So, nung panahon ni Admiral Carlos na tinanggal nila, successful ang mga resupply mission.
Tama.
Walang naputol na daliri. Mangyari, hindi ba galit kayo dun sa new model agreement na precisely na ito yon na mag-inform naman kayo kung ano, tapos Coast Guard lang yung nandoon. Wala kayo mag-TV. Tapos, itong sige po, hindi mo pwedeng magdayo humingi ng permission. Okay. So, nasunod yung gusto ni Gibo.
In the end, Sasot issued a challenge to current leaders of our country if the Philippines opts not to engage in dialogue with China.
Siguro sa
Ito lang naman yun.
bilang panghuli na lang.
Bakbakan? Bakit bakbakan?
Oo.
Kung ayaw pakipagbakan, then yung dapat yung mga salita man, hindi yung pakikipagbakan. Labo naman ito ang labo.
For God and the beloved Philippines, Almar Swallow, SMNA News.
In South Korea, a powerful explosion of battery cells set a factory on fire, killing more than 20 people and injuring 8 others. Kim's son has the story.
In South Korea, a powerful explosion of battery cells set a factory on fire, killing more than 20 people and injuring 8 others. Search and rescue operations for the missing continue after a huge fire raced through a factory run by battery manufacturer Arisel in Hwasong, about 90 minutes away from capital Seoul. One of the workers trapped inside a warehouse died from cardiac arrest. A massive fire started after lithium batteries exploded inside a warehouse that stored about 35,000 units. Authorities believe the flames spread so quickly that there was not enough time for workers to escape, especially since battery materials such as nickel are easily flammable. They added that the workers likely died from inhaling extremely toxic gas as the blaze got out of control. Rescuers find it hard to identify the dead due to the intensity of burns the bodies have sustained. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol visited the site with other officials. The cause of the deadly explosion is still being investigated. Reporting from South Korea, this is Kim Sung, your global citizen correspondent for God in our beloved country, the Philippines.
A new wave of unrest gripped New Caledonia following the extradition of jail protest leaders to France for pretrial detention, linked to 2 weeks of unrest last month that left several people dead. Trisha Molina reports.
New Caledonia was once again a scene of violent protests, triggered by the extradition of a pro-independence leader and 6 other Kanak activists to France. The jailed activists were flown to mainland France on Saturday for pre-trial detention over their alleged role in orchestrating riots against a controversial voting reform bill last month. The indigenous Kanak people feared the proposed measure would leave them in a permanent minority and possibly remove their participation in future elections. The widespread protests last month led to shootings, arson, looting, and other violence, which resulted in the death of 9 people. New Caledonia's prosecutor, Yves Juppé, explained that a transfer of custody of the 7 activists from the French territory to the mainland was done due to the sensitivity of the procedure and will allow the investigation to continue without any pressure. However, extradition of the activists thousands of miles away from their homeland sparked a new wave of violence and widespread unrest in the French territory. Protesters set fire to the town hall and vehicles owned by private citizens and the municipal police. Many schools were also closed on Monday morning due to the renewed tensions. The Kanak people have long sought independence from France after the European nation colonized New Caledonia in 1853. Reporting, this has been Trisha Molina, SMNI News.
The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog emphasized Brazil's growing global importance when it comes to the field of nuclear technology during his recent visit to the South American nation. Federico Veloso has the details.
Rafael Mariano Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, highlighted how nuclear technology remains a force for good, especially when it comes to addressing climate change and hunger, with Brazil's potential to make the ambitious initiative a reality. According to Grossi, a global energy and nuclear debate without Brazil makes no sense. The chief of the said agency visited Brazil as part of a 3-day program where he delivered a lecture at Rio Branco Institute, a top diplomatic academy in the Brazilian capital. His lecture focused on the positive impact of nuclear technology on peace and development. Brazil currently operates 2 nuclear power reactors, while a 3rd is still under construction. The country also plans adding 10 gigawatts of nuclear energy in the next 30 years, which is enough to provide power for about 10 million people as part of its 2050 National Energy Plan. Scientists have described nuclear power as the way to bridge the energy gap that is clean and reliable, as most nations worldwide aim to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. This has been Federico Veloso, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News.
Indonesia refused to pay the $8 million ransom money demanded by a hacking group following a massive cyber attack that compromised the country's national security and disrupted hundreds of government service nationwide. Anissa de Guzman, tell us more.
Hackers infiltrated Indonesia's national data center, disrupting services of more than 200 government agencies at both the national and regional levels. The cyber attack started on the 20th of June. The attack compromised hundreds of government services since last Thursday and caused long delays at the capital's main airport, with long lines formed at immigration gates. The attackers demanded an $8 million ransom in exchange for access to the data held hostage by the hacking group. Authorities at home and abroad joined forces in investigating the attack and to retrieve data held hostage by the hackers. The hacking group used ransomware known as Brain Cipher to make government data inaccessible through encryption. Immigration services at airports and elsewhere are now functional, but efforts continue to restore other government services. Reporting from Thailand, I'm Anissa de Guzman, your global citizen correspondent for God and our beloved country, the Philippines.
After years of illegal battle against extradition and enduring isolation inside of a maximum security prison, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has finally walked out of jail, and it's on his way to Australia after signing a plea deal with the United States. However, Australian leaders welcomed the landmark decision with caution as they closely watch details of the agreement that could give Assange the long-awaited freedom that his family and supporters worldwide have seen campaigning for years. Trisha Molina reports.
Julian Assange has walked out of prison as a free man for the first time since he was granted political asylum by Ecuador on the grounds of political persecution in 2012, before being dragged from the embassy by the UK police 7 years later. He stayed at the Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison in London for the past 5 years. The embattled WikiLeaks founder left the United Kingdom on Monday after striking a plea deal with the United States last week. After a short layover in Bangkok Airport, Assange is now on his way to the U.S. territory of the Northern Mariana Islands. He will attend a hearing in the Northern Mariana Islands capital of Saipan on Wednesday, where he is expected to plead guilty to one felony charge under the U.S. Espionage Act before he can return home to Australia, his home country. The WikiLeaks founder could return to Australia if the judge approves his guilty plea. Assange was originally facing more than 18 charges related to the release of classified documents that portrayed alleged war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan that showed civilians being killed. The said charges could have landed him up to 175 years in prison if convicted. Reporting, this has been Trisha Molina, SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. Good work is excellent work. That's all for this edition. For more updates, you may visit smninewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. God and Country, the Philippines, I'm Deivid Lira, and this is Newsline World.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Subscribe to SMNI News Channel and turn on the notification bell to keep you up to date. Also visit our official social media accounts and join our community on Viber and Telegram.